Hey, what's going on, guys? US dollar is going through the roof while the Fed is printing like there is no tomorrow. In this video, Charlie Munger, the right hand of Warren Buffett, will explain why he is concerned about our current economy and why he believes that US dollar is destined to implode. In the first quarter of 2020, the GDP dropped by 5%. The chair of Federal Reserve, Jay Powell, alarmed that the second quarter will be worse than anything we have ever seen. The Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta says that the real GDP growth estimates that national economy will contract by 52.8% in the second quarter of 2020. This will be by far the worst economic hit in the history. Many businesses in many different industries already closing their doors, while others are expected to be bankrupt later this year. Most of the sectors got hit, such as retail, air travel, hospitalities, restaurants, and so on. Many businesses from those sectors will not come back anytime soon. Another 1.29 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits in the week ending June 13. In the prior week, there were 1.54 million jobless claims, and it marks 10 consecutive weeks of deceleration. Over the past 3 months, more than 44 million Americans have filed for unemployment insurance. Jay Powell and Federal Reserve did what they do best, is to keep the economy floating until partially they started printing money. Fed expanded its balance sheet from $4 trillion to $7 trillion in just a matter of few weeks, printed more than $3 trillion. Many investors and economists very concerned about this Fed's action. One of them is Charlie Munger. Those of you who do not know who Charlie Munger is, he is the right hand of Warren Buffett and still vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. Lately, he expressed lots of concern about this massive money printing. Let's take a look.
You know, the economy sometimes booms and sometimes it doesn't. And you have to live your life through both episodes. And our attitude is we just keep swimming, and sometimes the tide is with us and sometimes against. But we keep swimming either way.
Are you surprised by how long this expansion has lasted?
Of course, it's lasted a long time. But what was really remarkable is we never printed money so much and spent it so fast and bought back so much debt, public and private. So this is total terra incognita in economics. And nobody knew for sure how it was going to work.
So is it risky then?
Of course it was risky, but it worked. And I don't think they had much else that would work. They weren't set up to do stimulus. Too much controversy, democratic inertias, the various guys. So they had to do something. And all they had left was just to print money and start buying things. And that's what they did. And it turned out to be a very wise response. And what's even more remarkable is that both Congress and the presidency and under both parties made the same decision. They all cooperated. It was the last time.
But where is that going to leave us ultimately?
Well, it left us licking the Great Recession. So maybe we ought to try cooperation again since it worked so well once.
How much is President Trump responsible for this current economic situation?
Well, I think he deserves some credit, but a lot of it just happened.
Economic cycle?
Yeah. And the decisions of his predecessors.
What do you think about the president's campaign to lobby the Fed to lower rates or keep rates low?
Well, I think presidents have always done this. If you're a politician in a democracy, of course you want people to print money and spend it. And of course it's not a good idea. The best example probably in the whole world is Singapore, which has zero debt and never prints money and spends it. And is one of the most successful places on earth. I wish we were like that, but there's only one Singapore.
Well, some people now say that federal debt is not a problem at all.
Well, if you believe that, you believe in the tooth fairy. Because then we don't have to have any more taxes ever. We'll just print money and live happily ever after. it obviously won't work.
So
There comes a point when printing money is counterproductive.
are we at that point? Are you concerned?
No, I don't think we are at that point, but nobody knew where the point was going to come. And we don't know now. None of these people who are so pompously sure of things, because we all want reassurance, and so they provide it. But nobody really knows how much of this is too much.
I agreed with Charlie Munger that we have to keep swimming either way, if the tide is with us or against us, but we have to be more cautious when evaluation reach unprecedented levels, and we have to be more aggressive when there is blood on the streets. This is true, we printed so much money for the past decade, but what's even worse is that we almost doubled the balance sheet for the past few weeks. All those money printing will turn another way eventually. It will become counterproductive. It works until it doesn't, and when it stops working, we will see lots of trouble. Just very recently, Charlie Munger was noticed by the Journal, and this is what he has to say about our current economy.
We've got some comments from Berkshire Hathaway's Charlie Munger to the Journal this morning. He says, I would basically say we're like the captain of a ship. When the worst typhoon that's ever happened comes, we just want to get through the typhoon. We're not playing, oh, goody, goody, everything's going to hell. Let's plunge 100% of the reserves back into buying businesses. He also says on the economy, of course we're having a recession. The only question is how big it's going to be, how long it's going to last. I don't think we'll have a long-lasting Great Depression, but we may have a different kind of mess. All of this money printing may start bothering us.
He basically confirmed that we are in the recession. It's not like it was a big secret back then. It is very obvious that we are in it. But he also mentioned that he doesn't think that we are going into the long-lasting depression. This will be different, and money printing may start bothering us. Speaking of US dollar, let's take a look what it has to happen in order to US dollar to implode. A dollar collapse is when the value of US dollar plummets. In that scenario, anyone who holds dollar-denominated assets will sell them at any cost. That includes foreign government that owns US treasuries. It also affects foreign exchange future traders. Last but not least, it would hit individual investors. When the crash occurs, those parties will demand assets denominated in anything other than dollar. The collapse of the dollar means that everyone is trying to sell their dollar-denominated assets and no one wants to buy them. This will drive the value of US dollar down to near zero. It would make hyperinflation like a walk in the park. Two conditions that could lead to a collapse. Two conditions must be in place before dollar could collapse. There must be an underlying weakness in the value of US dollar, and there must be a viable alternative. In other words, there must be a reason for the people to leave US dollar, and there must be somewhere else for them to go. Otherwise, dollar will remain the world reserve currency despite the massive printing. The majority of international contracts denominated a dollar payment, so that also adds a stability to US dollar. The dollar is not showing an underlying weakness. Between January 2008 and 2020, the dollar has strengthened by 30%, from 89 points to 115 points. Addition to that, when illness started, the dollar strengthened further by 10%, rising as high as 120 points on March 23, 2020. But since then, we have seen a decent decline. Why? The US economy is still seen as the strongest in the world. Investors trust US government will back its currency. The dollar's strength is based on its use as a world reserve currency. The dollar became reserve currency in 1971 when President Nixon abandoned the gold standard. As a global currency, the dollar is used half of its all cross-border transactions. That requires central banks to hold the dollar in their reserves to pay for those transactions. As a result, 61% of those foreign currency reserves are in dollars. Viable currency alternative. There is no viable currency alternative for everyone to buy. The next most popular currency after the dollar is euro, but it comprises only 21% of central banks' reserves. There is no such a high demand for euro as it is for dollars. China and others argue that new currency would be created and used as a global currency. China would like it to be currency the yen. Well, no shit. Every country would like to push their own currency and their own narratives. That will boost any economic growth. China has not taken enough steps to make its currency widely traded. It's only 2% of central banks' foreign currency reserves. Well, maybe Bitcoin can be a reserve currency. I do not think this would happen, as Bitcoin is highly volatile and because there is no central bank to manage it. Bitcoin is decentralized and without central control. Therefore, it cannot be world reserve currency unless if that would be totally free marketplace. But it's not. Economic event that could trigger a collapse. A collapse could not occur without a triggering event that could destroy confidence in dollar. Although foreign countries own more than 10 trillion in US debt, the two largest are China and Japan. If they dump their holdings of treasury notes, they could cause a panic leading to collapse. China owns more than $1 trillion in US treasuries. China pegs the yen to dollar. This keeps the price of its export to the United States relatively cheap. Japan in turn owns more than 1.3 trillion in treasuries. It also wants to keep the yen low to stimulate exports to the United States. Japan is moving out of a 15-year deflationary cycle. The economies of Japan and China are dependent on US consumers. They know that if they sell their dollars, their action would further depress the value of dollar. So their products still priced in yen would cost relatively more in the United States. Their economies would suffer. Right now, it's still their best interest to hold to their US dollar reserves. China and Japan are aware of their vulnerabilities. They are selling more to other Asian countries that are gradually become wealthier. But United States is still the best market in the world. When will the dollar collapse? It's unlikely that US dollar will collapse anytime soon. Countries that have the power to make that happen, such as China, Japan, and other foreign dollar holders, don't want it to occur. It's not in their best interest. Why bankrupt your best customer? Instead, the dollar will eventually resume its gradual decline as those countries will find other markets. Effect of a dollar collapse. A sudden dollar collapse would create global economic turmoil. Investors would rush into hard assets such as precious metals, commodities, and even Bitcoin, and interest rates would rise. US import prices would skyrocket, causing inflation. US export would be dirt cheap. This would give the economy a brief boost, but in the long run, inflation, high interest rates, and volatility would destroy possible business growth. Unemployment would worsen, sending the United States back into recession or even a depression. How to protect yourself? First and foremost, I'm not saying that US dollar will collapse, at least anytime soon, but we know that over time it will continue to lose its purchasing power. There is still high demand for US dollar since foreign countries transact and hold US denominated debt, and they have to continue to service that debt in US dollar. But let's pretend out of the sudden Fed burnt out its printing machine and dollar out of the sudden collapses. To respond to that kind of uncertainty, you must be immobile. Keep your assets liquid so you can shift them at any time. I would probably suggest to have some gold and Bitcoin. Let me know what do you guys think about US dollar. Do you think it will collapse? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, hit that like button and subscribe.